This is Seymour Rocks reporting from down under. I want to briefly talk about a scientific paper that's come my way 50 years after How to Wreck the Environment, Anthropogenic Extinction of Life on Earth. This is a rather difficult video for me to make because this has challenged a lot of my assumptions, or rather a lot of assumptions have been challenged in recent times. And because I've always assumed that the science that we have been fed is 100% correct, and there's little reason to doubt any of it. I've come to see over the past few years how much of the science surrounding climate change only reflects a small part of what we're actually seeing. It's not only that the IPCC is an incredibly conservative body, whereby all the information contained in their updates is already 5 years old and has had to be subject to a long process of scientific and then political discussion and consensus. I've always been happy to rely on the expertise of others. However, this year things have changed a little bit, and as I've learnt how to look at and interpret Arctic ice over the period of melt during the summer, sometimes the empirical knowledge that I have gained from looking at the data in conjunction with my friend Margot, who has made some wonderful videos on this, chronicling the changes in the ice, has made me question certain things that I would have taken for granted just a short time ago. For example, geoengineering or chemtrails, or rather the lack of them. In the days when Facebook was a little bit more active and there was more debate, far more debate than there is now, and I was trying to get the message out about abrupt climate change. I was hoping that people would really get it. I would get extremely irritated when I would put up something on the extreme weather events or to do with abrupt climate change. And I would get an immediate response from people that said something like, chemtrails, geoengineering. I saw it, and I still see it, as a major distraction from the biggest issue that faces the human species and threatens to purge anyone who pushed the issue on that basis. Apart from some initial research into this very early on in my blogging, I put the whole subject aside, and I think correctly. However, this year has seen two things that have made me reconsider my purist position. Firstly, I've been observing along with my friend Margot, who has a wonderful head for details, the sea ice in the Arctic. We have both observed some very strange phenomena in cloud formations, which we have talked about over the past few weeks, and which has led us to the conclusion there is much more going on than meets the eye. Things are changing far more rapidly than anyone expected. Furthermore, we began to see that some of the strange phenomena that we were observing were being removed. They were just being whited out by NASA. One day they were there, the next day they weren't. More immediately, my partner Pam and I have been observing some very strange cloud formations in the sky here in New Zealand that have persisted over the weeks and months in which we have never ever in our time on this earth have seen in our skies. And I've received no credible explanations for this otherwise than it's only water vapour. Nothing more to see here. A problem for me has always been our reductionistic thinking in science. The idea that if it is one thing, then surely it can't be another at the same time. But nature just doesn't work that way. There is no reason why this should ever be the case. We have climate change. I would call it abrupt climate change, caused, at least initially, by the greenhouse gases, mostly CO2, that our industrial civilization as a heat engine has put into the planet. And now that we've seen numerous positive feedbacks, then the whole thing seems to have a mind of its own, independent of what we do. This has unleashed a whole number of positive feedbacks, which has accelerated the process of warming far beyond anything that people would have expected. So, what if we had a harebrained scheme that's been dreamed up by the world elite and military to spray particulates into the atmosphere with nasties like aluminum and barium in them? What if this wasn't just some plan to engineer the climate in the future? Maybe it's already going on, and the results can be seen in the sky and in the very high levels of aluminum and other nasties being leached out in the rain and making people sick. As someone affected by exposure to toxic pesticide sprays, I'm very sympathetic to this, even if others shout, well, there's no evidence for any damage. We're going down, and we're going down quickly. Maybe there is an effort to mask the effects of rapid warming through global dimming. If industrial activity collapses, or for some reason they stop spraying, all bets are off, and we will see rapid warming like we've never seen before. How we look at all of this probably depends on our own deeply seated perceptions. So if we think that, for instance, 9/11 was brought about solely by Saudis with box cutters, or that prior to Trump coming to power, the United States was a noble country leading by positive example, you'll poo-poo all of this from beginning to end. Others of a more open-minded bent, who are into evidence and joining the dots, may see this more clearly. In the meantime, I will leave this for your reflection and hope that you examine it carefully.